You see the notification, just the preview. Enough words to know what it's about, not enough to feel like you've officially seen it. And you don't open it. Not because you're busy, you're not. Not because you don't care, you do. You just let it sit there. That little badge on the app, that name and those first few words hovering at the top of your screen before they disappear. You saw it. You know what it says. You already know what you'd want to reply. But you don't open it because opening it feels like something you can't undo. Once you open it, they'll know. Once you open it, the clock starts. Once you open it, not replying becomes a choice instead of an accident. So you leave it. You let the preview fade. You tell yourself later. And then you do something strange. You keep using your phone. You scroll, you check other apps, you watch something you don't care about. You even reply to someone else, someone easier, someone who doesn't ask as much from you. But that message, that one message, stays closed. Hours pass, sometimes a full day, and the whole time there's this low hum in the back of your mind, this quiet awareness that someone is waiting, that you're choosing silence without really deciding to. It's not that the message was hard or heavy or complicated. It was probably simple. Hey, how are you? Want to grab coffee? Just checking in. Normal stuff. The kind of thing that should take 15 seconds, but something in you resists. Something makes later feel like the only option, even when now is wide open. You tell yourself you'll reply when you have more energy, when you can give a proper response, when you're in the right headspace. But the truth is, none of those things are the real reason. The real reason lives somewhere harder to reach, somewhere between obligation and exhaustion, somewhere in that gap between wanting to connect and not wanting to be needed. And so you wait. And now it's been 5 hours and you still haven't opened it. Or maybe you finally did, and now they can see that you read it. And the pressure just doubled. Because now you have to explain the silence, or pretend there wasn't one, or send something warmer than you actually feel to make up for the gap. The stakes have somehow increased just by waiting, which makes you want to wait even more. It's a strange little trap, and you built it yourself. You know how to get out. You could just type something, anything, but you don't. You won't. At least not yet. And there's a small part of you that wonders what this says about you. If maybe you're bad at relationships, bad at communication, bad at being a person who actually cares about people. But that's not it. You're not careless. You're not cold. You're just tired in a way that doesn't show on your face or in your calendar. Tired in a way that makes even simple things feel like small mountains. And replying to a message, no matter how easy, is still a climb. Here's the part no one talks about. Replying to a message isn't just typing words. It's opening a door. And once that door is open, you don't always get to decide when it closes. You say, hey, and now you're in a conversation. You answer the question, and now there's a follow-up. You show that you're available, and now availability is expected. That's not a complaint. That's just the physics of connection. Every reply is a small invitation, and sometimes you don't have the energy to invite anyone into your day. Sometimes your silence isn't rejection. It's just a closed door you're standing behind. Not because you don't like the person knocking, but because you're not ready yet, emotionally speaking. There's also this pressure to respond well, to be interesting, to match the tone, to not seem flat or off or distant. And when you're already running low, that pressure becomes enough to avoid the whole thing. Better to say nothing than to say something that shows how empty the tank really is. Better to wait until you can show up as the version of yourself that feels presentable. So you wait, and the waiting becomes its own weight. There's something else underneath all of this too, something about control. When you don't reply right away, you're holding something, a small piece of your time, your attention, that the world hasn't claimed yet. That might sound selfish, but it's not. It's protection. You spend most of your day reacting to pings, to expectations, to other people's timelines and moods and needs. And in the middle of all that noise, not replying is one of the few things that still feels like a choice. A tiny assertion that you exist outside of what's being asked of you. That doesn't make the guilt disappear. You still feel it. That quiet nag every time you see the name, the notification, the thread you've been avoiding. But the guilt isn't strong enough to override the relief. The relief of staying invisible a little longer, of not being pulled into something you'll have to sustain. So you ride it out. You let the hours pass. You tell yourself, tomorrow, and you probably will reply, eventually. Maybe with an apology, maybe not. The person on the other end might never know what happened in that gap. They'll just see the reply and move on. But you'll know. You'll know that the delay wasn't about them. It was about the space you needed between being asked and being able to answer. Between seeing someone reach for you and having something to give back. You're not bad at caring. You just feel the cost of it more than most people do. And sometimes the cost is too high for a random Tuesday. And here's where it stops being just about you. Because this pattern didn't appear in a vacuum. You didn't wake up one day and decide that replying to messages would suddenly feel heavy. Something around you changed first. In the world you're living in now, being reachable is no longer occasional. It's constant. Messages don't arrive in batches anymore. They drip in one by one all day long. Conversations don't start and end. They hover. They wait. They stay open in the background of your life like tabs you never close. And with every message comes an expectation that's rarely spoken out loud, but always felt. Respond promptly. Respond warmly. Respond like you're emotionally available, grounded, interested, and stable. Even when you're not. Especially when you're not. In earlier versions of life, silence had a natural excuse. You were away, busy, offline, unreachable. Now silence is interpreted. It's analyzed. It's filled in with meaning by the person on the other side. And you know that. You feel that weight before you ever type a word. So the pressure isn't just to reply. The pressure is to perform availability. And that's exhausting. The society you're moving through rewards responsiveness. Quick replies are seen as care. Delays are seen as distance. Efficiency has bled into emotional life. You're expected to process, respond, reassure, and engage at a pace that doesn't match how humans actually regulate themselves. You're not just answering messages. You're managing impressions. You're managing tone. You're managing how much of yourself you're willing to expose in that moment. And when you're already stretched thin, when your nervous system is carrying stress that never really shuts off, even a simple "hey" can feel like one more thing asking for access. There's also something else happening beneath the surface, a quieter shift. Modern life doesn't leave much room for emotional neutrality. You're either on or off, present or absent, engaged or distant. There's very little space to just exist without signaling something. And not replying becomes one of the few ways you can pause the signal. It's not that you want to disappear forever. You just want a moment where nothing is being asked of you. Work expectations don't stop at the office. Social expectations don't stop at friendship. Everyone is reachable, which means everyone is interruptible. And when everything can reach you, withdrawal starts to feel like the only boundary you're allowed to have. So silence turns into a coping mechanism. Not because it's healthy, not because it's ideal, but because it works. It buys you time. It creates distance between stimulus and response. It gives your system a chance to breathe without having to explain itself. And here's the part that makes it complicated. You know this comes at a cost. You know that waiting too long can strain connections. You know that people can feel ignored or confused. You know that some bridges quietly weaken in the gaps you leave behind. But you also know what happens when you don't wait, when you reply on autopilot, when you show up hollow just to keep things moving. You end up feeling even more depleted, even more invisible, even more disconnected from your own responses. So you get stuck between two losses: reply too soon, and you give more than you have. Wait too long, and you risk distance you didn't fully intend. In a culture that treats availability as a moral trait, that tension lives inside you every day, and no one really teaches you how to navigate it. You're just expected to adapt, to keep up, to answer, to be there. So sometimes you don't. Not because you don't care, but because caring has become expensive. And silence, for better or worse, is the only currency that still feels like it belongs to you.